do you feel about picnics?
Ooh. I mean, honestly, meh.
Meh.
I mean, so, well, what were we talking about? Are we talking like blanket on the ground, food in a basket?
Is there any other way to have a picnic?
Well, sometimes people stretch like a picnic to like you go sit at the tables, like the bench, you know?
A picnic has to be something where a Yogi Bear is going to want to steal some of that yummy, yummy food, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's fine. I just feel like you always end up uncomfortable for one reason or another, you know?
Because you're on the hard earth.
Yeah, it's maybe it's too hot out, maybe it's a little windy out, maybe there's people nearby that are yamming. Not yamming or yammering.
Yamming, which is when you toss yams at other people in the park's heads.
Yeah. So sometimes people are doing that and it really gives you a bad experience.
Terrible experience.
Welcome to Butter No Parsnips. Every week on Butter No Parsnips, your hosts Kyle Imperator and Emily Moyers take you on an adventure through the weird, wacky, wonderful, and sometimes even wicked world of one wayside word. Strange characters, delightful bits, and general joyousness abound. Join them as they test each other's etymological expertise.
Hey everybody, welcome to Butter No Parsnips. I'm Emily Moyers.
And I'm Kyle Imperator. Emily, boy, do I have a picnic basket of a word for you today.
Sounds great. I'm so excited.
Well, keep that excitement up, because your word today is formication. 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 Get your mind out of the gutter, you salty, salty gal.
There's an M in that word. Formication.
Formication.
Okay, so what it sounds like immediately, right off the jump, is like an elongation for comedic effect of just like to form. Like formication is the act of something being formed.
Use that in a sentence in that sense.
Well, it would just be, it's synonymous of the verb to form.
Yeah, but I want to hear you use it the way that you're picturing it.
Like the four men who are friends formicated a barbershop quartet.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Oh, that's how you thought? Okay.
Like formed. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was thinking like, yeehaw, they be formicating a barbershop quartet out there, you know?
You know, you're thinking of fornicating.
What? You think they're having sex, the barbershop quartet?
What are you?
Wow.
Why did he need to be a cowboy?
Because it sounds like, you know, like Southern slang, more formicating.
I guess I was more thinking just casually when you elongate a word. But maybe that's just you and I because we're word nerds.
Maybe. Possibly.
In terms of what it actually means, so the form part of it has to be like shape, like
it doesn't have to be.
Or
in fact,
like
it isn't.
Like creation?
Nope.
Or like a piece of paper that you have to fill out when you go to the doctor's office.
I mean, it could be that, but it isn't.
No, what else can the root form mean? Formīca?
You said a really important thing there.
I said formīca. You're looking at me like I'm supposed to know what that means aside from a hunk of rock.
Yeah, I mean, that is not going to help you all that much, but you're on the right track.
What else does formīca mean other than a hunk of rock?
We're going to find out.
Okay, so Kyle is depending on me to know things that I absolutely do not know, is what I'm starting to come to the conclusion.
It's just the word. I can't help you. If you don't know it, you don't know it. Would you like a hint?
I would like a hint.
Your hint today, Emily, is epidermis.
But it doesn't have to do with the rock formīca?
It doesn't have to do with the rock formīca, no.
Then why did you harp on that I said it?
Well, you'll find out in a little bit. But
oh my God.
Also remember that there's always some sort of tangential relation to the question that's asked at the beginning.
Yeah. And you asked about picnics and then you said, what did you say, exoskeleton?
Epidermis.
Epidermis.
Although exoskeleton
that means
could
the
be
same, basically. As we just learned in the last
Emily.
episode, epi means upon,
Yeah,
and dermis means skin.
So what we're learning today is Emily is either A, an alien, or B, an insect, or C, both.
Formication is putting on a jacket.
Putting on a jacket.
It's what you put on on top of your skin when you're going out to a picnic because you're worried it's going to be cold.
Emily, I'm sorry to step in the potato salad, but you're not there.
I have no idea what this word means, Kyle. You're going to need to tell me.
So formication in medicine means an abnormal skin sensation feeling like ants or other insects crawling over or within the skin. And as such can also be a tactile hallucination involving such a sensation.
Oh my gosh. Well, Kyle, now I'm going to have Phantom Itch during this whole episode. So thank you for that, first of all.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Wow. Formication.
So, yes, formication with an M, not fornication, as every blog post about this word is wont to remind us and make terrible jokes about.
Well, sure. But immediately it is where your brain goes because there's only one word that you know that sounds like that.
It's true. And a lot of times the two words can get confused in like historical texts because M's and N's like look similar. So if like there's just like a smudge.
Yeah.
But formication comes directly from the Latin word for ant, formīca, Emily. Formica, formīca.
Formīca.
Well, in Latin, it was formīca. Have you ever heard that, like, used in relation to ants?
No. Should I have?
No, I don't. No, absolutely not.
No, I'm desperately trying to figure out if there's a connection with the geological end of that.
There is, and you'll find out about it right before the end of the episode.
Okay, sounds good.
I'll leave you hanging.
I'll hold my breath till then.
Yeah. A reason to keep listening.
Formīca, ants.
Formīca. So we don't know where formīca comes from, but it's suggested that it's from a Proto-Indo-European root morwi or morvis, which meant ant. And this Proto-Indo-European root probably also brought us a synonym for ant that has been used historically, not so much anymore, but mire, M-I-R-E.
Oh.
Is a historical synonym for ant.
Connected to the modern mire?
Like a bog.
Yeah.
That's a different etymology.
Different etymology.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Morwi, a possible relative of morwi, is the Proto-Indo-European wormi or worm, which originally meant insect larva, and then worm, and then narrowed to ant or other small insect. Existing hypotheses put forward that wormi was either intentionally deformed to morwi in order to avoid saying the word due to taboo, which happens a lot with animal names, right?
Interesting.
Or the two were just conflated because of their coincidental similarity.
Just the W's and M's.
Yep. But either way, wormi seems to come from the Proto-Indo-European root were, meaning to turn, either in the sense of a worm being in a curled shape, or because of its writhing and wriggling behavior.
That is a funny coincidence with werewolf, because you're turning into a wolf.
Because you're turning into a wolf.
I think it's just a coincidence, because I think the were in that sense means man, but it's a funny coincidence.
So, yeah. Well, Emily, can you think of any words related to were in this sense?
Like worm?
Like worm! That's the big one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I could think of any others.
Well, so, yes, you got it right. Were came to Old English as wirum, which meant worm, or maggot, or grub, or reptile, especially a snake, or dragon. And then this came to modern English as worm, W-O-R-M, worm, or worm, W-Y-R-M, which was a limbless dragon.
Like a dragon, yeah.
But it also came to Latin as vermis, which meant worm, and that brought us words like vermicelli, the long, slender pasta, from Italian vermicello, meaning little worm. Literally, that's what it meant. And it also brought us words like vermin, which is an annoying small insect, right?
Yeah. As soon as you said vermicelli, I was like, vermin!
Yeah, vermin. But the annoying small insect du jour, Emily, is the ant. And from the get-go, Englishified formīca words were medical.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Get
With
ready.
ants?
With ants. Emily, get ready. Like, I hope you didn't have a full meal before this.
It's a Gross Kyle episode, everybody.
Gross Kyle.
So, formīca itself actually first came to English circa 1400, referring to a kind of abscess, ulcer, or lesion.
From ants?
From ants.
Why? I don't like this.
Is that a cosmic why?
Yes.
Writer Bartholomew Traharne's 1543 translation of research done by Italian surgeon Giovanni da Vigo explains the connection to ants here. It says, Formica is a little puzzle or many puzzles that come upon the skin, the third sign of which is pricking, and it is a sudden biting, as it were, of an ant whereof it hath his name.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So, like, along with the lesion, with the ulcer, it felt like ants.
Pain.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, I guess maybe it's just a matter of like different ants existing in different parts of the world. I've never encountered ants that bite me. I just think of ants as a walking around sort of a problem,
yeah, I mean,
you know?
Yeah. There are different kinds of ants with different defense mechanisms or offense mechanisms.
I mean, I guess like red ants.
Fire ants.
But like black, I am aware there are species of like regular black ants that will bite you. I just feel like I've never been in the vicinity.
I mean, you've also never antagonized. Ant-agonized.
I have, it's true. It's true.
So this definition of Formica then narrowed to mainly be used with hawks' bills and dogs' ears.
Like puzzles on those?
Yeah, like a disease of hawk's beaks, like the pip for hawks.
Like the pip.
They would call them formicas. Yeah.
Lovely.
But the growth of a formica can be called formication. As Davigo notes, if the aposteme come to formication or stinking, ye may remove the borders with a rupture of capital.
Oh, a rupture of capital?
Yeah, I couldn't figure out what he was talking about there. I think it might be a reference
bankruptcy.
To... Yeah, right? A rupture of capital. That's the only way to get rid of the stinking. Also come to English is the adjectival formicating and later formicant, originally used to describe a pulse as weak, often in reference to the dying and diseased.
Weak, like this could be an ant's pulse?
I could not figure out why, but I probably
like tiny.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe in reference to the size. I don't know. But English physician Thomas Willis explains in his posthumous 1685 The London Practice of Physic, if in a robust man being in a fever, the pulse becomes small and formicating, death is near at hand.
Yeah, sounds like it.
They were just learning that in 1685. Can you believe it?
If he ain't breathing, turns out he's dying.
Not a good look. Formicating is but one distinction historically given to pulses, as an 1845 English translation of polymath and theologian Emanuel Swedenborg reveals, the ancients distinguished pulses into several varieties, such as undulatory, vermicular, formicating, bounding, mouse-like, double, unequally equal, irregularly hurried, serrated, etc.
All of those were bad descriptions. And I don't like that 3 of them were pest-related. There was vermin, formicating, and mouse-ish.
Yep, mouse-like. Yeah, also, unequally equal? What is that?
I loved that early 2000s heartbreak song.
It really is. Yeah, so pulses, crazy. I was going to do a whole thing on pulses here, but it ended up getting really beside
hit the
the
floor.
point, so, yeah. Formicant and formicating can also be used to denote the sensation of one's skin crawling, as can the adjectives formicative and formicatory.
Wow. A weird emphasis in that one.
It's honestly because I read it bad, but so I could do that over again if you want.
No, I like it.
We'll keep
I
it.
like that there has to be a real arc to it. Formicatory.
Formicatory. I was just trying to separate because like one is formicative and the other is formicatory.
Yeah.
It's just really hard to keep it.
Yeah, I mean, there's English words like that where like the emphasis is sort of up for interpretation.
Yeah. And also, like, the British pronounce all these way differently. So they say formicative, which is like a mouthful.
That's the best option.
Right? So this crawling symptom has been historically well documented, described in English as early as 1450. Formication can be an uncommon form of paresthesia, which is an abnormal sensation of the skin with no apparent cause, from the prefix para, meaning parallel to, and the suffix aesthesia, meaning relating to sensory function. And paresthesia is more commonly known as pins and needles.
Oh!
Yeah, right?
Sure. Yeah.
You were talking about phantom scratch earlier.
Phantom itch.
Phantom itch. Phantom limb, the sensation of feeling a limb where it is not, I believe is related to this, like, paresthesia, you know?
I think phantom itch is a real thing people talk about too. Like if someone talks about itching enough, it'll like get into your head and then you'll feel like you have an itch where you didn't before.
You are more of a dermatologist than I am, so I believe that.
That's a false statement.
It's a true statement.
It's sort of to say that like an apple is more a hamster than an orange.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
I totally agree. I totally agree. So, Scottish physician William Allen Jameson describes the sensation in his 1888 Diseases of the Skin, writing, "Formication, or the cutaneous impression, resembling that produced by the creeping of numerous insects over the surface, is sometimes met with. Both itchiness and formication depend on nerve irritation, which may arise from some cause within the body or from some influence acting from without. The latter seems to be due to irritation rapidly propagated from one nerve fibril to another."
So it just like spreads across your nerves.
Spreads across the
What was the crazy word you said right at the beginning of that?
Cutaneous impression.
Cutaneous!
Yeah, I think just like meaning skin. I think that's what cutaneous means.
Yeah, I mean, I was immediately thinking like cuticle.
Yeah, it literally means of relating to, existing on, or affecting the exterior skin, especially the cutis.
Wow.
A little cutis. So formication is a symptom that can be found in a lot of maladies. It's a symptom of anything from menopause to Lyme disease to syphilis, and discussion around it is sometimes accompanied with a light warning. As Jameson later writes, "A variety of itching often encountered in the eczema of elderly people is formication. This is described as exactly the crawling of myriads of animals over the skin. Yielding to the temptation to scratch invariably makes the disease worse, and all means which enable the sufferer to refrain tend to relieve, and even in mild cases alone to cure the disease." So he's basically saying, don't scratch.
I bet it's the hardest thing.
I know, right?
It's the hardest thing when you need it.
It's awful. Yeah. It's awful, but it's also medically documented.
Yes. And it's like, you're like, I'm fully aware that if I scratch right now, it will just continue. I'm just going to perpetuate it. And the best thing I could do to make this stop is to not touch it. But I can't. I need to touch it.
Yeah. You go through this whole process in your mind. And
you
then
hate yourself, but it feels so good. Like, sweet relief, but I know it's in vain.
Speaking of instant relief, French neurologist and advancer of electrophysiology, Guillaume Duchesne de Boulogne,
beautiful,
once used electricity to cure a case of the symptom in 1853.
Uh-oh!
Get ready for this, Emily. You're gonna love this.
Yeah, I feel like I can see that this is not going to end great.
After applying his clamp to the nipple of the patient and raising the electricity
you've immediately made a misstep when you're like, I know where to start. That immediately tells me that your head was in the wrong place from the start. You were not doing this from a perspective of pure medicine.
I've got this clamp and I feel like there's only one place where this belongs.
No, I feel like, Doc, my itch is like happening over here, like on where my shoulders are.
Shut up.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you came in with a plan, huh?
One of us has got 1,000,000 joules of electricity in their hand and the other doesn't. So you're doing what I'm saying. So after applying his clamp to the nipple of the patient and raising the electricity to, quote, maximal intensity, Duchenne wrote, as the nipple was galvanized, he uttered such a loud shriek I had to interrupt the current. Yeah. The pain had been excruciating, but merely instantaneous, and to my great surprise, after the artificial pain which I had brought on, the pain of angina had disappeared completely, as well as the sensation of numbness and formication which accompanied it.
And he came away from that thinking, I've done right.
He is the person who made electrotherapy real. He made strides in electrotherapy.
But it sounds like for all the wrong reasons.
Possibly. In more extreme cases, Emily, formication can present itself as a symptom of tactile hallucination, which is the false perception of touch caused by faulty neural signals, faulty brain signals. And it can specifically present itself along with delusional parasitosis, which is a disorder in which a person experiences hallucinations in which they are infested with parasites. This can be brought about by underlying psychiatric conditions such as schizophrenia, or by drugs like amphetamines and cocaine, in which the hallucinated vermin are sometimes colloquially referred to as meth mites or cocaine bugs, but not amphetamine ants. Unfortunately, Emily, I know you were really...
It would have been perfect.
It would have been perfect, right?
We got to get into the amphetamine community so that we can start this trend.
Guys, this is the last episode of Butter No Parsnips because unfortunately we're planning on getting into the amphetamine community. Gonna be hard to get our work done after that.
Yeah. Pretty impossible.
The Latin formīca is now used to describe a genus in the larger ant family, Formicidae, but there are many other ant-related words in the English language, Emily, that related to Formica.
Like Formica?
Nope, but we'll get there soon.
Oh my god.
So, formic, formicate, formican, formicarian, and formicid are all adjectives describing something of or pertaining to ants.
Crazy. I've never ever heard that. It's like all those animal words, but it's for ants.
But for ants, yeah. So for an example of this, an 1867 edition of The Boy's Yearly Book refers to the biblical proverb, "Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise." As
a good proverb.
Yeah, it's a good proverb. It refers to it as formican wisdom.
Is that... I don't know if you know anything about that proverb. It sounds like it's meant to be like derogatory.
It does sound, because it uses the word sluggard.
It does.
And that's like the second insect in that.
Yeah. It sounds like you're saying, go back to the sewer, you scum.
I think like it continues on and it's like the ant like does this and the ant does that. And I think it's like, we can learn some wisdom even from the lowly ant.
Yeah.
No. Killing an ant, Emily, of course, or the substance that does so, is a brutal act of formicide.
A formicide.
And if one does so for sustenance, such as the mighty anteater, one is formicivorous.
Formicivorous.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
An early synonym for ant, formis, Formice, or YCE, was used in the late 1400s by writer William Caxton, such as in his translation of Aesop's fables, describing one as a fable of the ant or formis and of the fly. We don't give the options anymore when we talk about that fable. It's just the
No,
ant
I'm
and the
sorry.
fly.
It's ants, whether you like it or not, because formis is crazy.
Emily, do you know where ant, the etymology for ant, comes from?
No, but it's always the little words that it's like, that could have come from anywhere, and I would believe it.
Well, believe this, Emily. Ant itself comes from the Old English amete, meaning ant, from the Proto-Germanic mahitana, meaning to cut, and ultimately from either or both of the Proto-Indo-European roots mahi, meaning to cut, or may, meaning small.
Do you think it's cut because the body is like separated?
It could be that, or I feel like we've talked about in another episode how cut because it's like you're talking about making something smaller by cutting.
It can just be small.
It then became, referred to as small things because that's the action that's happening. But Emily, from that small root, that may, we get other diminutive words like mince, minus, and minimum.
Nice.
And diminutive.
And diminutive. I wouldn't have thought of mince, though. That's fun.
Yeah, and that's also kind of like cutting.
Cutting,
too, right?
Yeah.
Making smaller.
Yeah.
But ant also has the doublet emmet, E-M-M-E-T.
The name?
It's unrelated to the name. It's from the Old English amete.
What does it mean?
It's just ant. It means ant. It's from Old English ant.
Oh.
The name has a completely different etymology.
Crazy.
Yeah. And this was used in Richard Burton's 1621 The Anatomy of Melancholy, and in it he describes humanity by saying, "Our villages are like molehills, and men as so many emmets, busy, busy still, going to and fro, in and out, and crossing one another's projects as the lines of several sea cards cut each other in a globe or map."
Wow. That's good.
It's good, right? This well-known stereotype of ant activity brings us the verb formicate, to move like ants, which can, in a transferred sense, mean to swarm with moving beings, as American poet James Russell Lowell once wrote of his time in Italy, describing an open space which formicated with peasantry.
That's good. I like having a fancy word for like swarming, but also very comedic in that it sounds so close to fornicating.
Formicated with peasantry.
Look at all these people formicating up in here. See, now it's a cowboy word to me.
Why? Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I came back around to it.
Emily, it's no wonder then that Cornwall brought us a dialectical meaning for emmet in the 1970s, being a humorous or disparaging term for a tourist.
That's good.
Wasn't
Cornwall, like the place, the area?
Like the place, yeah, in England.
So a formicant, did you say, is a tourist?
An emmet.
An emmet is a tourist. That's good.
Yeah, isn't that good? But forget about molehills, Emily. What about anthills?
Yeah.
The word you're looking for is formicary or formicarium, which refers to an anthill or colony, or in scientific studies, an ant farm.
An ant farm.
Yeah,
Nice.
little glass ones.
What if they had called the kids' TV show from several years ago, instead of ant farm, formicarium?
I've never heard of it, and so I don't know the watch statistics, but I think it might have been even more, maybe not even had a pilot if it was called formicarium.
Yeah.
An example of a use of this is Mr. McCook's 1879 note on the adoption of an ant queen, which remarks that said queen was kept alone within an artificial glass formicary.
Wow.
They were trying to figure out why, when they introduced ant queens to ant queenless nests, why the ants would always kill the foreign ant queen. And it turns out that they were just not, like, they needed to give her time to, like, get them to know her, you know?
Yeah, they have to, like, see her and probably smell pheromones.
And smell her. Yeah. So they started putting her in a little cage so that they could walk around her but not get to her.
I think they do that with a lot of animals, actually. Before they
with
like
bees,
introduce
too.
them where they can actually interact, they'll like put them in rooms next to each other, or just like gradually get them closer.
That's how England introduced their queens to the countries that they invaded.
Absolutely.
Brought her in a little cage.
Just sit.
Go on, get away.
Now, Victoria, you're just going to sit here for today. Remember, we're not going to interact.
Okay.
That's your Victoria.
Yeah. I think that's what she looks like she sounded like. All right. Emily, we're rounding out to the end here, and I need to note that studies on ants and their formicaries have helped us make chemical discoveries as well.
Oh.
For example, for years it had been noted that there was an acidic vapor emanating from ants and anthills, or as Parson naturalist John Ray referred to it in 1670, a liquor which if you presently smell to will twinge the nose like newly distilled spirit of vitriol.
From ants?
From ants.
Crazy.
Well, Emily, it turns out that formicine ants, that is those in the Formīca genus, contain what is now called formic acid, the simplest carboxylic acid, and some, such as wood ants, can spray it as a form of defense. The urinous smell of anthills caused by the presence of formic acid led people in the 1300s to start calling ants pissmires, which broadened in the 50s. Oh yeah, you got a real good laugh out of that.
That's good. That's good.
Pissmires. Yeah. That broadened in the 1500s to be a derogatory term for an insignificant person, was a pissmire.
Who's a real piss? Oh, wait.
Emily, you got
it's
there.
A piss ant.
This came to the US in the 1600s as piss ant, referring to the bug. They were calling ants piss ants in the 1600s.
But
and then it wasn't until the 1930s that piss ant gained the derogatory sense. Yeah.
That just means like a nobody.
A nobody, an insignificant person.
Wow. Crazy. But great. I'm glad. Now I'm happy.
You're going to be even happier, Emily.
Is it time?
The last bit of info that I have for you is about Formīca.
Yeah.
The heat-resistant laminate material used to veneer countertops.
Yeah.
It was genericized from the 1913 trademark invented by employees at the Westinghouse Electric Company. So that's why we can just call the material Formīca.
So it's not, but it's not. I thought
it was originally a trademark. They originally called it Formīca, but now we just call the material Formīca as a generic term.
Sure. So it's not. I thought it was a rock. Now I feel a fool.
I mean, it's close. Well, you're so ready. It's believed the name Formīca was a pun on the ant genus Formīca, as the material used a product made with formic acid, which we'll get to in a little bit.
Oh.
But also because the laminate was a substitute for mica, a mineral that had been used for countertops at the time.
That's what I'm thinking.
There we go! Sweet release!
Now I'm caught up.
Now we're caught up.
Really
Formica.
hope everybody listened to the end before they commented. Emily doesn't know what Formīca is. And you're still correct. There was just a method to my idiocy.
Well, now, Emily, it's time for you to talk about those classic countertop creeps, ants, by using formication in a sentence.
Yeah. Yep. Standing in my kitchen next to my Formica countertop, I thought for a moment, I hoped, I prayed that I was experiencing the phenomenon formication, the mistaken feeling of ants crawling on my skin. And then I looked down, and unfortunately, there were real ones there. Yes. And I had to get some formicide up in my kitchen.
Wow, nice. Wow, you used so many in the sentence. I'm going to give you bonus points for that, Emily.
Nice.
Yeah, fantastic job.
Thank you, Carl.
You want to play a game now?
I do.
Emily, your game is called Consider the Formic Factor. Let's play on form factor. I don't know. I tried.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We all try.
We all try. So, Emily, surprisingly, chemistry and ants go hand in hand, as formic acid is closely related to many compounds, both as a material and through their naming convention. So in this game, I'm going to give you a description of some compounds related to formic acid, and you're going to have to name them.
Okay. I hope I
Okay.
do good.
Most well known for its use as an embalming fluid, this organic compound is mainly used in the production of industrial resins, such as particle board and coatings.
Is it formaldehyde?
Formaldehyde, Emily. You
Nice.
got it. Literally, formic aldehyde.
Oh, is aldehyde like a type of compound?
Aldehyde is a type of compound, but it is the formaldehyde is the simplest of aldehydes, and it is only separated from formic acid by a single oxygen atom. It's the only thing that separates the two.
Well.
Okay, next one, Emily. Originally popular as a surgical anesthetic, we talked about anesthesia. We talked about thesia, right? The sensation of not having anesthetic. Right?
Yeah.
You'll probably recognize this common solvent from its cliched use as an incapacitating agent.
I feel like I'm positive that it's in my brain somewhere and it's just not coming to the surface right. Chloroform?
Chloroform, Emily.
There we go. Just had to
Good
find it.
job.
Knew it was there.
Yes. So it is a portmanteau of chloride or terchloride, which is like 3-chloride, and formyl, which is a radical of an obsolete radical of formic acid. I don't know what any of that means, so it's chloride and formyl.
Yeah.
Formic. And it's named as such because the simple structure of chloroform reminded its coiner of the simple structure of formic acid. It's like, wow, this is just like formic acid. Like, okay,
Sure.
I guess. One of the earliest uses of chloroform in criminal activity that's recorded was in 1849, though it should be noted that it would take at least 5 minutes of inhalation of chloroform alone to knock someone out. So if it's actually being used in criminal activity, it's probably mixed with other things.
Sure. Or maybe on someone already asleep.
Yeah, or on someone already asleep.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? All right, hold it.
I'm not suspicious yet. Hold it for another 4.5 minutes and I might.
All right, Emily, you ready for your last one?
Yeah.
This is one you've never heard before, but you'll get it based on the clues.
Okay.
Made by combining formic acid and hydrogen peroxide, this organic compound is not something to make one good at acting or singing, despite the name.
Formic peroxide? Hydrogen acid.
You know. What do actors do?
Act.
Okay, what's another word for what they do?
Oh,
it's the blank
performic acid?
You got it, Emily.
Wow.
Performic acid. It's literally on a Wikipedia list of chemical substances with wacky names.
Sure. What is it used for again?
So performic acid is a non-toxic sterilizer used in the medical and food industries. So it's just a cleaning agent. And it's good because it's non-toxic, so you're not going to, harm someone with it. But when combined with flammable substances such as formaldehyde, performic acid can explode at room temperature. It's very volatile.
Yikes.
As such, spilled performic acid is diluted with cold water and collected with non-flammable absorbents. And one of those that you might use is the mineral vermiculite. Bringing it right back around.
There you go. It's all about rocks.
It's all about rocks. And at the end of the day, it's all about rocks.
Hey, all about rocks. Kyle, good to have a word for that phenomenon. It's sort of a creepy-crawly subject to talk about ants, but it was all super interesting stuff.
And you could talk about it, like, for the movement, like you can formicate, you can do formication. It's just so much there.
I liked the teaming thing, formicating. It's good. Yeah. And all a bunch of ant words I never knew, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, if you liked all of these ant words, remember that you can watch us on YouTube at Butter No Parsnips. We've been covered in ants through the whole episode.
Yeah.
And
And we may not sound like it, but it's true.
But if you're watching, then you can see. And you can find Butter No Parsnips on other social media, on Facebook and Instagram at Butter No Parsnips Podcast, and on TikTok at Butter No Parsnips. And if you like today's episode, consider giving us a 5-star rating or review wherever you heard us.
And if you really like today's episode, consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/butternoparsnips. Donating $5 or more gets you exclusive access to Buttered Parsnips, our After Hours podcast.
Thanks so much to all of you. You help us make what we make.
And with that, I've been Kyle Imperator.
And I've been Emily Moyers, and this has been Butter No Parsnips.
Butter No Parsnips is produced by Seth Glicksman, Emily Moyers, and myself, Kyle Imperator. The main and accompanying themes were composed by Kyle Imperator.